Did you know Higher Ed's premier tech conference, Ellucian Live, is almost here? Join industry leaders in New Orleans, March 26th through 29th. Discover insights and game-changing solutions to unlock possibility and drive student success. Register at elive.ellucian.com.
Epic.
3 higher ed authors, 100 plus college and university presidents, dozens of actionable insights for academic leaders. Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education, is now available on Amazon. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio back with you again on another episode. If you are following the podcast, you know that we are getting super, super close to 600 episodes. If you could stinking believe it. I can't believe it some days. I do these every day. You hear me, I don't know if it's more complaining or letting everybody know that I record every single day at noon Central Time. I eat my lunch like 5 minutes before or 5 minutes after. Every day I am booked out from now until the end of May, I think. So we're going to keep bringing you lots of conversations because now I'm booked. I want to do just a quick plug. I was talking to my friend John Neal about his consulting work that he does, him and his colleagues at Gen Ed Consulting. What they do is they support colleges and universities in their online challenges. And you guys know it is incredibly disruptive times for higher ed. And John and I were talking about colleagues who are confused sometimes starting new programs or transitioning existing on-ground programs without having an actual online strategy. It's sometimes it's like universities throw a bunch of things at the wall and just wait to see what sticks. John's team at Gen Ed Consulting focuses on helping institutions create a digital roadmap, one that advances institutional mission and resonates with consumers and constituencies, and one that thoughtfully and realistically outlines achievable, sustainable, and scalable results. I do encourage you guys to visit Gen Ed's website at www.genedconsulting.com. That's JENED consulting.com. Or send John Neal a note at john@genedconsulting.com. Shout out to you, my friend. You're doing great work, John, and thanks for helping those colleges and universities move online. I want to bring in my co-host. You've heard him before. I call him EJS. He's here he is. He's Dr. Eric James Stevens, better known as EJS. Eric, you've got 20 titles, so I don't even know where to start. You just tell everybody what you're doing these days.
Yeah, I started out doing hashtag Translate Academia and higher ed. And lately I have been getting ready to start a company where we're going to build an AI-powered TA for teachers, because we think that everybody deserves a TA. Every teacher deserves a TA. And I start a new job tomorrow, and I'm excited about that. So thank you for having me.
Fantastic.
Well, we are wishing you the best of luck, my friend, in all your endeavors. I don't know how you have the time. Sounds like a lot of work.
I don't know either.
And you have kids, don't you? You have kids over there and all that?
Yeah, with I'm announcing with baby number 4 on the way.
Hey,
so
man,
yeah,
now
so
we're talking.
Now I think that's now public knowledge, right?
Yep, baby number 4. You should have checked with the wife before you announced it here live on the EdUp Experience, but that's okay.
Yeah,
now everybody knows. And we're going to get right to our conversation today. We've got an amazing guest. Here he is. He is Nick Dirks. He's president and CEO of the New York Academy of Sciences. Nick, thanks for coming on the podcast. How are you?
I am well, and great to be here.
Well, we always like to get right into it with our guests. Tell us, level set for somebody listening right now that has not heard of the New York Academy of Sciences. What is it? What do you guys do? How do you do it?
So the New York Academy of Sciences has been around for 205 years, but it's taken a lot of different forms over that long history. And it's a distinct academy in the sense that anyone can be a member. Most academies of science require that you get elected by a group of peers. Tends to be a very august group of scientists or humanists or whatever the academy constituency is. But the New York Academy was set up by a group of people in New York in the 19th century who simply wanted to hear the best and most current issues in science as they were developing, and they set up lectures and salons and publication series. The longest running publication series in science in America was established at the Academy in 1835. And it's kind of continued on from there as a place that convenes leading scientists and thinkers who are charting the future of our world in relationship to the changes in science and technology. We have a big education group that offers terrific opportunities for mostly middle and upper school students, but also for college, graduate student, and postdoc populations as well. We reach not only across the greater New York area, but across the country and indeed across the world. A third of our membership, in fact, is from outside the United States. We also give awards to scientists, mostly to early career scientists. We do that in the United States. We do it in the UK. We do it in Israel. We're beginning to do that in India next year with a collaboration with Tata & Sons. We hold conferences, webinars, of course, now more than physical conferences, although we're going back like everybody else to in-person gatherings. We have sponsored research and nutrition. We run what we call an international science reserve that creates a kind of network of scientists to think about the next great crisis that we're going to confront after the pandemic. We host the Leon Levy Neuroscience Scholars, and we're developing new programs in artificial intelligence and future technology, bioethics, and of course, the big issue that everybody in the world of science and indeed across society is thinking about today around climate.
Epic.
That's a lot, Nick. That's a lot to orchestrate. You said it so beautifully within, I don't know, like a minute, but when you think about how deep and how insanely important that work is that these scientists are doing, it's an incredible undertaking. How do you keep it straight? All these different scientific areas, convenings, people. I mean, and I was looking at your website. You're talking about scientists from all different disciplines. And I mean, there's just a lot. How do you focus on any one thing at any given time? Because there's health sciences and there's, technology sciences. There's just so much going on right now. What's most important? How do you prioritize? There's like 10 questions in there. You just
I was going to say, which one do you want me to answer? Well,
whatever one you want.
The truth is that, science is made up of multiple disciplines. And indeed, at the New York Academy, we not only work with scientists who are based in universities, we work with scientists who are in industry, who are working with different kinds of organizations, and sometimes scientists who are not doing active science as such, but doing work in the policy space. And so, yeah, the span is huge. And we welcome, in fact, even broadening that further, because when you start thinking about the impact of something like artificial intelligence, you're talking about people in the tech space, but you're also talking about everybody in business and finance and of course in universities where we all need more TAs. And I'm looking forward to seeing an AI TA that we can spread around. But to put this just also in context of my own career, before I did this, I was chancellor of UC Berkeley, which is kind of big. So
Yes.
I'm kidding.
I feel like I'm used to a complex organization. The Academy is leaner. It's not meaner, but it's leaner, and it's a place where you can meet people from all over the world of science, both around the city and internationally. So it's a really exciting opportunity to bring science to bear on really trying to make our world a better place.
Yeah, I like your transitions that you built in there too, to hand things over to Eric, because I was going to ask him.
Are you going to help me now or not?
Over to you.
I'm really curious because like this transition that you said, going from like running, as chancellor at UC Berkeley, and now right here with the New York Academy of Sciences, like what has been like the easiest transition? Like what has been like the thing that has been the most exciting thread between the two?
Yeah, interesting question. The state, I mean, UC Berkeley, great university, a public university, and a public university that has been for some time in the kind of crosshairs, not just of culture wars and other kinds of issues that we hear about almost daily in our media, both newspapers and social media and so on. But it's a place that's been affected by the really disinvestment on the part of states and public higher education. We have these extraordinary and great public universities across the country that serve more than 70% of the college-going population. And they were built up over decades by people in states who all wanted to make sure that the benefits of higher education could be made available more broadly to its residents, and both in terms of education, but also in terms of advanced research. And it's an extraordinary accomplishment. Before I went to Berkeley, I was at Columbia, a great university, but a private university funded in a different kind of way. And so for me, thinking about the kinds of challenges that we face in terms of, all the things that are going on in the space of higher education is one that sometimes almost feels a little bit daunting. So at the Academy, what I've been able to do is focus on particular things that are related to the kind of scientific and intellectual project of what's going on in the university, and indeed the educational project is at the core of that. But to do so in a more targeted way, and to not have to worry about talking to the state legislature or the governor, getting calls from Jerry Brown about the fact that we had to bend the cost curve of higher education on a regular basis and so on. Instead, I'm able to actually think about, what are the really big issues in spaces like, data analytics and AI.
Yeah.
How can you bring scientists together to both say, look, there are all kinds of opportunities here. Don't get completely weirded out by the fact that Kevin Roose has a conversation with Sydney that seems pretty strange and is reported in the New York Times. Think about both the real issues, the real challenges, but also the extraordinary opportunities that technology is making available, and then get in front of it and start thinking about what we need to do to introduce new scientific discoveries in ways that will really advance what we're all trying to accomplish, and not just be seen as a science fiction plot to take over the world on the part of HAL 3.0.
So tell me, like, you use that cool term of like trying to get out ahead of like what's coming. So now that you I look at you in your position, I mean, you get to see a lot of really cool stuff that's coming down the pipeline, just like with all the people in the communities that you're interacting with. What are some of the really exciting things that you're trying to get out in front of? Like what, and like, help me understand what that means. Cause to me, it just sounds really exciting, just that potential.
So, example, a lot of people have said over the last few years that the big thing we need to do is follow the science. Of course, that created, a lot of misunderstanding, particularly because science is not one thing. It's a process, it's a community, it's a method, or it's a set of protocols really around how you take research and build that research to predicate a set of discoveries and propositions about, the nature of the world, the nature of the body, the issues around health, et cetera, that, are sustained by rigorous, concrete experimentation that you can then reproduce if you have the equipment to do so. And in that sense, we saw with the pandemic, in the early days, everybody thought it was spread on surfaces. We all, took out the sponge when our groceries came by delivery or out of the car or whatever it was that we were trying to, figure out how to cope with that difficult time. And of course, we realized it was aerosol based, and we had to think about, wearing masks and social distancing rather than just, scrubbing the Amazon box. So, people began to say, what's going on here? What the science doesn't even know what it's talking about. Why should we follow science? Because it seems to change its mind all the time. And of course, it's a little complex to tell the broader public that that's how science advances. That's what science is. It's an ongoing conversation with a lot of rigor, but also because of that rigor, it's changing. Now, if in fact, you want to think about the role of something like the New York Academy of Sciences, which brings together scientists, but also addresses the general public, again, not unlike the world of universities from which I came, you want to think about how to make that proposition about scientific knowledge come alive and actually be something people can take on board and and turn not only to fear, but to understand and then to welcome as a result, because of course progress comes from figuring out better ways to think, better ways to know what's going on. And so my sense is that rather than follow the science as a kind of slogan, we at the Academy are thinking really about leading the science. But that also means, as I said before, and as you asked me about just now, trying to get out ahead. So when my wonderful colleagues at the University of California, Berkeley, Jennifer Doudna, with her collaborators, Emmanuel Charpentier in particular from France, discovered CRISPR-Cas9 as a gene editing tool, which could actually allow you to edit your gene makeup, a lot of people immediately began to say, well, does that mean we're now going to create designer babies? And there's a lot of plausible concern about how CRISPR-Cas9 could be used precisely to, try to engineer, your next kid as, 6'4", because somebody said, being taller is better, instead of dealing with it to cure Huntington's or sickle cell anemia or whatever it might be. So there are these incredibly complex ethical, but also just basic scientific questions that are, out there and that invite us in some sense to think about how you're going to use scientific advances. And in my view, what the Academy can do is help us, think about those kinds of future challenges in ways that allow us to gain a lot more confidence that science is in conversation with the relevant people in our society to ensure that these discoveries are not going to be ill-used or misused or abused in some of the terrible ways that we know could happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention? It's time for us to solve the puzzle of success in higher education. Get your ticket to Ellucian Live for industry insights, powerful connections, and innovative solutions. From March 26th through 29th, join peers from around the world in New Orleans to unlock the possibility and drive student and institutional success. Learn more and register at elive.ellucian.com. You know that the world of higher education is experiencing evolutions and revolutions. You want to be part of the progress. Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education with insights from more than 100 college and university presidents, will show you how. Get your copy of Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education now on Amazon right away. We think you're going to love it. It's
amazing.
I was looking on your website, and I got to tell you, I'm so happy that you offer these remedial courses. I was looking at this one an online course, Molecular Modeling for Materials Science Applications. I was like, oh, that's easy for me. I'll hit that one, no problem.
We'll sign you right up, Joe.
I don't know about you. There's one in here, Eric. I don't know if you can. Introduction to Computational Antibody Engineering. I took that. It was like a breeze. No, honestly, you offer some online courses that are like amazing. What does this look like? Do you have scientists coming in? They have specific fields. You're offering is it continuing education units that they get? Is it introduction to topics that are going to further the research? Can you talk about the online courses that you offer and why Eric won't be able to get through them, but why I will? I mean,
Come on.
And by the way, do you ever get to the point where you're going through these many things, Nick, and you seeing all these events in these classes, and you just say to yourself,
I am the smartest man alive.
all right, go on.
Well, we offer a lot of different kinds of opportunities for people, both scientists who are in a field and need to know more about it in very concrete, detailed areas, or people who want to learn from outside those specific fields, to take on board new developments in fields like cancer immunology, or for that matter, a recent conference series we did on the nature of consciousness. We had a conference at some point, and we're going to have more on the medical uses of psychedelics, which there's a lot.
Very interesting.
But we tend to do most of our curricular work, most of the courses that we actually offer as courses, as supplements for students in middle school or high school. We've only begun recently to develop a lot of course content, and of course there are a lot of other providers that we can partner with, from edX and Coursera to Outlier and so on, which we know again brings some of the best scientists from universities, not just into a classroom but into a studio where the work that they do in the classroom can be broadcast to a lot of others. And we think that's great, and we look for more opportunities to collaborate. But the truth is, what the kinds of things that we put on range from the very technical, for the specific scientific community itself, to much broader efforts to communicate science to the public. At our annual gala, which of course didn't happen for several years, so it was annual after 3 years last fall, we gave a New York Academy Award to Alan Alda for the work he does in science communication in the center he established at the University of the State University of New York at Stony Brook. And we did that in part to honor him, and we did it in part to, just kind of bring attention to the fact that one of the things we want to do is convey not just the knowledge of science, but also the excitement of doing science to people who sign up. So you just mentioned a few courses that are clearly there for the scientific community, which always needs to know more about latest discoveries. I mean, every university group of scientists I've ever worked with are constantly having people come in to lecture about the work they're doing and stuff they're learning, as almost in real time. And we try to do that as well. But we also do a lot of things that are meant to bring in a much broader community of people who are sometimes not scientists at all, but just interested in what science does. And that actually, as I said, goes back even to our origins in the 19th century as a place, for example, that was one of the first sites in the US where the evolutionary theory of Darwin was presented and then debated. So, again, we had membership that included people like Darwin and Thomas Edison and others, and became a place that was known for, making available the kind of latest thinking in science to anybody who wanted to come in our doors, and now it's to click on our links.
Amazing.
This is I'm hearing that there's this common problem that I think that, so a lot of our listeners are higher education leadership or higher education leaders, and I would say that society is going through this anti-intellectualism moment, and I feel like university leaders have to do a lot of going on the offense and making really strong cases for hey, this is why we have value. And it seems to me that a lot of what you're doing is so communication focused, which for me, my background is rhetoric and communication, and so I love this concept of it's not just doing the science, and it's not just talking about the science, but it's sharing the excitement of the science. The other day, I was watching an interview with Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank on The Daily Show, and he accounted his success and all of his investments to the ability to tell a story. That's why he's successful, is because he can tell stories of the businesses that he invests in. So my question is, when you're going through in your position, and you can talk about in your position at Berkeley as well, for the higher education listeners, but in this one as well, how important, or I guess, what is the story that you're trying to communicate with the public to say, no, we are here and we have value, we have these people like Edison and Darwin, we're not just something to be dismissed.
Well, it's really important what you just said, because spending most of my life in the university, and then for the last 2 decades in positions of university leadership both at Columbia and Berkeley, I became very aware of the importance of addressing the public in a much more serious way. I think for a long time university leaders thought it was hard enough just to provide the best education for our students and the best research opportunities for our faculty. But again, now that a lot of questions are being raised about, should we really support the university, both at the level of public universities, but even in terms of private universities, are they really delivering a public good? Is it something that the kind of research that goes on? Should we really support that? Who does that benefit? With all the other needs that we have in society, where do we hold the universities accountable for the fact that student debt has been going up exponentially at the same time that universities seem to do a worse and worse job of training students to actually get real jobs and have careers over their lifetime? And that, of course, has been part of the conversation, leaving aside, all the concerns about, cancel culture and, campus culture more generally and so on. So, universities have to take on board the need to address the public and to do so in ways that, really does not only inform the public, but give the public a sense of the importance of what goes on in the university and why it's important to support these universities for what they've done for hundreds of years, but which is now under question in the way in which you just described, and I've witnessed up close and personal during my time, especially at Berkeley. So in that, it's not always easy. Scientists can be brilliant in the laboratory. They don't necessarily get trained to be good teachers. And, when you're a teacher, you have a captive audience. So again, there's another step function you have to cross in order to get to the point where you can talk to the public in a way that can be compelling. And as you said, we also know that to be compelling to the public, and in fact, to be compelling to your students increasingly, you have to be able to tell stories. You have to be able to put even the most abstract knowledge in forms that really make people not just listen, but get a sense of the kind of drama that's going on all the time. And science is full of drama. I myself have been trained as a historian and anthropologist, not as a biologist or a physicist. But anthropologists a long time ago realized that, if you tell a good story about the kinds of things that happen when you're doing your field work, you can get people interested in, a complex kinship structure or a different kind of cultural performance of one sort or another. But you have to draw your audience in.
Nailed it.
So the same is there for again, even the most abstract science. One of the things that I appreciate about the work we can do at the Academy is partnering with both individual scientists and with universities as institutions to provide opportunities to address a broader public. And I'll give you one example of what we do. We give early career awards to scientists, as I said, in 3 different countries. They have to be under the age of roughly 42. So it's long before they would be likely to get a Nobel Prize. And they're also out there hustling to get more support for their research. But what do? We call them up. After a jury goes through, multiple applications and nominations, and when you get to the end of it and you're actually given the award, we call them up and we say, we're going to make a video and we're going to help you prepare a lecture that you're going to give at an award ceremony, and we're going to show the video at the award ceremony. And this is going to have a lot of different people in it, and we're going to show you how to tell your story in a different way than you typically had before. They often say it's great to get the recognition. Obviously, it's great to get the check that comes along with the award, but it's also great to have that kind of training to talk to the public. And it turns out scientists want to do it, and they enjoy it when people actually sort of pay attention and don't fall asleep after the second paragraph of what they've begun to say. So I think this is an enormously important thing, both for universities at large, but also for individual scientists. And I'm glad we can play a role in helping that process forward.
Nick, what's the pipeline? Are you the tip of the spear? In other words, where, you're a scientist and all the different scientists with different disciplines are coming in, they're bringing the research and, taking courses and learning. Are you doing call it a downward effort to interest potential students in science? And what is this pipeline looking like? What's the reality of interest in sciences throughout education today?
Really important question. And thank you for asking it, because one of the great challenges we have today is that a lot of young people, when they start thinking about what they want to do, they look around them, what if they're out, if they're in a rural setting, they look at nature, or they, they read something about dinosaurs, or they, see images that come from, most recently, the Webb telescope, that open up, the incredible, images of the universe, billions of light years away. And they say, well, that's what I want to do. I want to be an astronomer. I want to be an astrophysicist. I want to be a paleontologist or whatever. And then they go take a course. And, whether it's intro to chemistry, or, famously in college, organic chemistry that used to be used to basically tell people how stupid they were, or whatever it might have been. And it might be, of course, a math course. Where you do calculus, and all of a sudden you begin to run for the door and think about anything other than numbers as the things you want to work with for your for your coursework and then your career. It's easy to fall off the ladder, and it's very hard to get back on. So we feel that one of the most important things we can do at the Academy is to help young people do two things. One is get excited about science, and then two, begin to develop confidence about their capacity to do it, even if parts of it are really, really hard. And it turns out that to have a more diverse pipeline, this is all the more important, because it turns out if you come from, say, an educated family where your parents and grandparents went to college, and you just take it for granted that you're going to be able to succeed in whatever you do because everybody around you has succeeded. If you come from a first generation college experience, and you're going to college and nobody has actually succeeded in this, you're just assuming usually that you're an imposter in some way or another, and waiting for evidence that you really don't belong there. And a bad grade, or even a bad a quiz result in calculus, could set you back and send you off away from a career in STEM. So what we do, for example, in the Academy with this last year, up to 16,000 students around the world, is invite them to participate in what we call innovation challenges. So we set out a challenge. Sometimes it's sponsored by a company. Sometimes it's sponsored by a foundation. It could be, a puzzle about how you recycle a particular kind of plastic so you don't pollute the waterways and the oceans. It could be something having to do with COVID-19. It could be any number of things. We've had lots of examples of different kinds of challenges over the years. And we then recruit these students to work together in teams, and we assign them a senior scientific advisor or mentor to work with them. And they sometimes compete because obviously the gaming aspect of this is exciting and, gets people's competitive juices going. But they work together, and they sometimes work together and learn both how to do research about something and how to work as a team, which in science is critical, and find that science is actually only part of the puzzle, that there are puzzles that go beyond the kind of methods you have to use in science to get there, and that it's worth really trying to figure out, even if you have to fail a few times, how to stick at it and how to stay with the problem so you come to the solution. As you do if you're doing a puzzle, whether in a crossword puzzle or whatever, once you figure out you could actually succeed in one and finish one of the crossword puzzles that I've still never been able to quite do when it comes to at least most days of the week in the Times crossword puzzle. But the truth is that once you get excited, and then once you realize you can do it with a group that is supportive and a mentor who helps you through the difficult patches, you're much more likely to stay on the pipeline and to persevere. And that will create both a more robust and a more diverse pipeline. And that's so critically what we need, both in this country and around the world, because it turns out it matters who you are when you do science. You see the world differently if you come from a different background. And you sometimes end up posing questions that nobody else really thought of, partly because, they just didn't have that kind of experience that would have made them think that, this is a really important question to ask. Like, for example, the kinds of things we're seeing today around, reproducing social bias in artificial intelligence. It wasn't something that everybody who was doing the algorithms that were part of early AI was thinking about. Well, if you come from a particular community that is underrepresented and usually the target of some of those kinds of social biases, you notice and you begin to find solutions to change the way in which you can align our social values with the kinds of algorithms and AI systems that we develop.
Amazing.
Eric, final question to you before we close it out.
Oh, that kind of took me off guard there. Because I was expecting one of your little word association things.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sometimes I do them, sometimes I don't.
No. That's good. That's good. I am someone who is currently obsessed with artificial intelligence and AI and what's going on. There are just so many things. Like right now, everybody's really excited and talking about how AI can create content. Like it can do a lot of like creation, and there's a lot of like buzz around that. I'm far more interested in how it can leverage researchers and scientists to do the work that they're doing. So I'm wondering if you've been able to see, just within even the past few months of the release of ChatGPT or some of these other AI tools that are out there, like what are some of the other novel things that the general public might not see as an application of AI, where it's actually doing some really cool stuff?
Yeah. Great question. And it's important, really, I think, to ask those kinds of questions about, what are the things that, are not being reported on the front pages of the papers and on the evening news and so on, that actually could help, people like scientists do a better job at what they do. We all see the possible misuses of GPT in terms of misinformation and disinformation. Clearly, these are major issues, and there are people out there working on this, and we need to take those challenges very seriously. But even going back all the way to the use of AI and protein folding that DeepMind was able to do, you realize that serious scientific puzzles can be solved as well using artificial intelligence, using neural networks and the like. So just in the last few months, since OpenAI unleashed its GPT-3 and set everybody abuzz, I've realized that on the one hand, my wife is continuing to teach in the classroom, and she's worried about not plagiarism now, but the use of GPT for papers. There are all these kinds of worries and concerns that people in universities have. But on the other hand, I talk to colleagues in the social sciences and the sciences who realize you can feed in a vast bibliography now to an AI program and say, I'm interested in knowing about X, Y, and Z. But, it takes a long time, say, to read, let's just say even 300 scientific papers. And they might be very recent papers. They might even be in preprint, so they're not totally indexed. But you want to find out where you can find information about a particular development, say, in the use of immunotherapy in a particular kind of rare cancer. Well, you can do that now. And GPT-3 is going to put out the results in a kind of ordered way with a little bit of narrative to give you an idea of not only where there's a reference, but what the nature of the reference is. So you can decide pretty quickly whether it's something you want to go look at directly or not. So it's like a research assistant. It's not a TA, it's an RA. And if you want to build a system like that, Eric, we'll talk after the show.
Holy crap.
Okay, I like that idea.
But it's a good example, right, of how this could be a huge asset for the work of, again, not just science, but virtually every other discipline as well. So I think, that's, again, just an example among many of ways in which this new extraordinary technological capacity is going to leverage amazing kinds of potential uses for serious research and discovery. Well,
there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like some, like the the odds of connecting you two at this really weird moment on this podcast, all of a sudden somebody's building AI and you got like an AI expert. I swear you might be the smartest man in the world here, having access to all this information all the time from the New York Academy of Sciences, Nick. But innovators, right? Scientists are innovators, and that's the whole point. They're original innovators. We think about technology innovators now, companies and so on, but the original innovators, and still those innovators, are scientists that are creating new solutions to improve our lives and elongate our lives and improve lives of others in different ways. And we thank you, Nick, for the work that you're doing at the New York Academy of Sciences. But before I let you go, I do want to thank my co-host today. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Eric James Stevens. He is going to create something using AI that you'll never forget when he's done. Eric, got to keep us posted, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to causing some disruption.
I love that. Somebody that's been causing disruption for a long time. He's my guest today. He's Nick Dirks. He is president and CEO of the New York Academy of Sciences. Nick, we hope you had a good time in the podcast. Thank you for doing great work. And anything you want to say about the Academy of Sciences, take us away.
No, this great conversation, terrific questions. Really enjoyed meeting you both, and we'll sign you up for any number of courses and webinars, and stay in touch. And as we develop new programs in AI, watch out. We'll be watching you.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for some
Amazing
news. It's time to work together to solve the puzzle of success in higher education. Ellucian Live returns to New Orleans from March 26th through 29th to help you unlock possibility for your institution. And yes, the EdUp experience will be there recording live. Industry leaders from all across the world are converging to discover new insights, game-changing solutions, and powerful connections, all with the goal of addressing higher ed's greatest opportunities and biggest challenges. You do not want to miss Ellucian Live. Learn more and secure your seat today at elive.ellucian.com. It will be
amazing.
It's time to level up. The beginning of a new era in higher education begins with you. Order your copy of Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education by Kate Colbert, Dr. Joe Salustio, with contributions by Elvin Freitas. It's higher education's must-read book of 2022. Discover how you can seize the moment to change higher education forever. Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education, now available on Amazon. For bulk orders, contact Kate, Joe, or Elvin